So this happened in live chat this week. I believe it was Pathways and Possibilities pointed out in the middle of live chat that that this particular deck, which I think is called the English Magic Tarot, was on the U.S. Amazon for $5. Five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm a sucker for $5 decks, especially since this deck is a deck I've looked at on Barnes & Nobles. For I think it's $24 at Barnes & Nobles. So I was like, what? It's not even been out all that long, which is really kind of too bad. But I hope that's not an indication it's going to have a short run for obviously the people who put a lot of work into it. But regardless, for $5, I'm willing to look at most decks, right? And take a peek at it. And this is one that kind of intrigued me anyways. I just didn't feel like I would use it enough to be worth paying for it. But for $5, yeah, I'll check it out. So Saturday, of course, Amazon means a Monday mail, which is the lovely thing about Amazon. So here is the deck that we're talking about, which is called the English Magic Tarot, I was correct, by Rex Van Ryn and Steve Dooley and Andy Letcher. The foreword is by Philip Carr-Gomm, who is the author of the Book of English Magic. He is also, I believe, I'm double checking, that's why. He is also the deck creator with, I'm assuming, his wife for the Druid Animal, the Druid Plant Oracle, the Druid Craft, which, as you know, is one of my main decks. Nope, not the Wildwood Tarot. But these 3 decks that I quite love. So I definitely pay attention. You know, if somebody's going to put the forward in, I assume that they have the integrity of having been interested in what was created by this deck. So that definitely got my attention. As we talked about in other things, another live chat or something, we were talking about, you know, people recommending things, and I am definitely one of those that pays attention to book blurbs, and people that do forwards often get advanced copies of the book and or the deck, and then obviously wrote the foreword. And so that is something that I look at and appreciate. So that definitely had its. So yeah, the original price is $24.95. This is Red Wheel Wiser. So here, let's see, this is by Philip Carr-Gomm. Here with this deck and book, you have the chance to explore the world of English magic directly, engaging with its peculiar charms and eccentricities, and with what excellent guides! Exclamation point. The English Magic Tarot opens up a rich new pathway into the cards that would delight novice and experienced tarot users alike. Although, truthfully, I don't tend to recommend these types of decks for novices. I feel like get your base before spreading out and seeing what other people are doing. So it comes in the boxes that I'm starting to be so happy to see with tarot. It's nice. It's a sturdy box. It's got the little tabs on the side to open it. The book fits in it along with the cards. I mean, look at this cover here. It has that graphic novel. See, I love graphic novels. I have a stack of graphic novels, both mine and then others that were my son's. And I am a huge graphic novel fan or comic fan. And this definitely is in the style and a limited palette that you will see in graphic novels. And so that actually did intrigue me when this first came out. Again, I was intrigued by this deck. Just not enough to pay the full price for it, but Again, $5. Yeah, sure, sign me up, right? It has like an insert here, just a real flimsy kind of cardboard papery thing, but it does hold the cards, and if it holds up, it does keep them at least from sliding underneath. I'm not a huge fan of these 2 slot systems because they don't stay in place once these paper tabs are off. So I would most likely end up putting this into a bag, except for there's such a nice box. Can it fit? Let's just see if it will stand. Yeah, if I don't have the book in here, I could just stand this on my shelf because my books go in a section for books. So that's probably what I would do there because this is a nice skinny box, right? But right now, let's get the cards back out. Randomness, the things that we think of. But all in all, I'm really happy with the box of it because, again, it's a nice box that can stay and stand nicely. So let's slide that over here. Here we have the cards. Let me pull this. Somebody asked me what I did with the paper things, and so there's your answer. I break them and I throw them away. Oh, I love that Ace of Swords. Now, I have heard complaints about these big borders, which I do agree. I don't know why some of these, or one of these is reversed. Some of these are reversed, which is very strange. I have not ever, it was in the paper, so that I'll have to fix that before I go do the walkthrough. So I have definitely heard complaints of the big borders. You all know I'm not a huge fan of big borders. However, this is not a deck I would be trimming because, as you can see, the major arcana are actually borderless, and so you couldn't trim these down and then have these here. So it's just going to stay what it is. But you know what? One of the things that does help that work for me is the fact that it's got that sort of squared off imagery of like a frame in a graphic novel, and so that kind of appeals to me. And it is what it is because I'm not going to trim that. So I definitely have heard people complain about that, although I do love the color coding of the suits. That's something I do appreciate in decks. Here we have the back. It's clearly not reversible because you have the colored borders showing here with the 2 hands. Again, I don't read reversals, and even if I did, when I lay cards down, I lay them down face up, and so that whether or not a back is reversible makes no bearing on me, whether I do reversals or not. So very graphic novel style in tone, color. It's got like an old style graphic novel feel to it. Again, I'm very strange how some of them are coming reversed, and I'm going to pause before I do the walkthrough and fix that because that will drive me nuts. We have 2 sort of, you know, artist cards that will go into a pile I have over here next to me to be used as bookmarks or check edgings of color, because this will definitely need to be edged by some vintagey color, probably gold or something. So there we go. So I'm going to pause here for a minute, and before we look at the cards, let's take a look at the book, because obviously this is not going to be just a Rider-Waite, a different artistic rendition of the Rider-Waite. This is kind of based on a system. So this, we have, of course, the foreword that we talked about by Philip Carr-Gomm. Let's just see down at where he sums it up. Here with this deck and book, you have the chance to explore the world of English magic, directly engaging with its peculiar charms and eccentricities, and with what excellent guides. Andy Letcher offers meaning for the cards and ways of working magically with them, which are exciting and original. Even if you know the tarot backwards, his insights and suggestions will surprise you. The images of Rex Van Ryn and Steve Dooley play on the imagination, evoking memories of dreams, of the past, of some of the danger and fascination of a fairground in earlier times. Above all, the English Magic Tarot invites you to engage with it, to enter into its world, and to trust it to work its magic. So it talks about it goes into the actual book where it talks about the time period. Really, it looks like it's got some great historical information. What is We already talked about that, so we already just read that. But it is a, English magic is a distinctive local branch of natural magic. It has evolved through many iterations from prehistoric times to the present day and freely blends high and low magic, which I know they talk about in this because I read about that. One constant that it regards is that it regards the cosmos as animate and our place in the world as significant. I do think the idea of the high magic and the low magic, hopefully I can quickly see. Here we go. Two streams or currents run through English magic, as entwined as coiling snakes. One is high or learned magic, which traces its roots all the way back to Hellenistic Egypt and the texts attributed to the legendary Hermes Trismegistus. High magic incorporates astro magic, the Jewish system of magic known as Kabbalah, a good smattering of Neoplatonic philosophy. So it's the more academic magic, right? By contrast, low magic is the magic done by ordinary folk and consists of a body of lore and practices that have simply emerged through the passage of time, handed down through. So folk magic, which is what really interests both of them interest me. Practitioners of low magic, who might have included your grandmother, curtsying to the new moon, were called cunning men and women. The streams of high and low magic cross repeatedly through the history of English magic. Wicca, for example, mixes both, and they also cross in tarot. On one hand, the cards have been traditionally used in that classic low magic kind of way as an oracle to read people's fortunes at psychic fairs and in Romany caravans. On the other, 19th century magicians came to see the tarot with its synchronistic numerical correspondences to the Kabbalah as the key to unlocking the secrets of high magic. So they have studied high magic, but their approach here is distinctly low. The danger is that as tarot symbolism becomes ever more complex, it serves more as a barrier to understanding than a gateway, which is something that Patrick and I have been talking a lot about. And even I've talked with my friend Otzi as well, just in terms of talking about Marseille-style pip decks, and then a lot of the decks that we currently have, where there's so many correspondence layered on top of them that sometimes it gets so overburdened with correspondence you kind of lose the path, so to speak. So that's quite interesting. So now the interesting thing is the way they do sort of a path of how they came about to create the different cards, and then we get to the actual cards, and you can see there are 2 pages for the major arcana, which we will read one in a minute, and then in the minor arcana you have a single page, but on both of them we have a description, we have an interpretation, and then we have how you might read this. As well, it looks like a upright and reversal, although it's quite a small part here. So we'll take a look at that. And so this is just condensed down a little bit more in the minor arcana. And then when we get through, it talks about working with the cards, the 2 ravens spread, the 3 sisters spread, so basically a 2-card and a 3-card reading. And then here we have the prism spread. And this is named after Isaac Newton and his discovery that light could be split into its constituent parts with a prism glass. So we have the eye, the nadir, the dragon's tail, the dragon's head. That is also from Geomancy. How awesome is that? The azimuth, the fetter, the glass, the dark star, and the zenith. So we'll definitely try to take a look at that afterwards. We have the broadside spread, which were mass news sheets that were distributed, which is a 9-card. And then they have something called a memory theater. I have read a little bit about this, and it not having ever been applied to tarot. I will have to read more closely about this, and then maybe do an example of this on a separate video. So let's just take, and we'll look at the cards a little more closely, but for right now, just to check out the handbook, let's take the Fool card. We can see that we have the number of the card, the name of the card, Sweet Holy Innocence, being sort of a little catchphrase for it, black and white grace image of the card. The description says, a fool strides across the English countryside. He wears a fabulous multicolored costume and a hare gambols at his feet. Interpretation. Here comes the fool, not a care in the world. Everything he says and does seems to turn out okay without his even trying. He is the embodiment of effortless non-doing. All his possessions are wrapped up in just one knotted handkerchief, but is that a mad look in his eye? Is he the village idiot, the cuckoo-brained, or a mooncalf? There's a darker side to the fool. He might be a trickster, an unraveler like Loki or Raven or Coyote or Ephnesian, someone who brings chaos to the world just because he can. He does look suspiciously like Guy Fawkes, or perhaps he's the wise fool, able to speak when others cannot. Traditionally, the fool is regarded as the hero setting out on his magical quest. Of course, he starts from a state of pure innocence. Why else would he need to go adventuring? He needs to learn about himself and the world. That's why his number is 0. 0, the hero. He starts with nothing. Usually the fool is accompanied by a small dog, but here Rex has given him a hare instead. According to mythology, the hare is wise and mad all at once, just like the fool. As with any mammal that survives by running fast, hares have disproportionately large hearts. It's what gives them the umph to escape the hounds. How appropriate. Like the hare, the fool's heart is huge and wide open. There might be a sheer drop in front of him, but he'd step right over and land without a scratch. Embrace the fool, take a leap into the dark. This is the reading. Embrace the fool, take a leap into the dark. If he appears reversed, then it's time to stop acting the fool. You're not coming from a place of open-heartedness. I quite like that. I mean, that's a really great description of the fool, to be honest, and I really love the idea of putting the hare in there. Now, there's we'll look at the cards in a second when I zoom in here. Okay, so here we are close up to the cards so we can take a look. Now, I was kind of disappointed to see, like, there is writing that is in this card, and apparently in several of the cards where there'll be symbols and things. I was really hoping that that would be discussed in the guidebook. And now, I have not read from beginning to end the entire guidebook, which I will be doing because this is quite interesting. So I may have to come back and give a little bit of an update because right now we're just looking at this card together. I do like that in the book itself, it says to trust your intuition on what draws your mind in, that the interpretations are simply the writer's interpretation. Although many of my interpretations are based on long conversations with Rex, on many years of study, and a fair bit of life experience, they still remain his interpretations. So he says, if what I've written is helpful to you, then that's great, read on. But if any of my interpretations jar, don't hesitate to put yours first. It says, this approach makes sense, for if symbols were the kind that image A has meaning B, why would we actually need them? We could simply write them down in a long list and read off their answers like snippets of computer codes, A equals B. But no, symbols aren't like that. They're supposed to catalyze the imagination in ways that can't quite be put into words. That's why Rex and I don't talk about tarot readings. We prefer tellings because we want the cards to speak to you. I quite like this fool. He definitely does look like Guy Fawkes. The rose is still here. The bag is still here. I love the idea of the hare who has such a large heart because that's how I definitely see it being walking through the world open-hearted, right? And that can cause issues and things, but it is also something glorious about that. And I really like the way he looks like he's just marching forth. We have the traditional feather in the cap, so we do have a lot of the same symbologies there. I really love this kind of minimal palette, so the very few colors that are being used, very graphic novel style art. It just appeals to me. Here we have a very interesting magician. Mastery of the craft, or logos is what it has here. An English magician stands in front of a window or a portal. His spell is complete and he is about to step into another world. How awesome is that? So here we don't have the magician getting ready to do a spell. He's already done it, right? He's mastered his craft. He's created the portal. He's going to step through and see where it is he going to go. I love that. The need to exercise your will in the world. You have the skills, you have the tools, now act. Very cool, very powerful magician. See, and again, you've got, those look to be runes that are here. We also have probably some kind of an alchemical symbol. We can see here we have the elements, 4 elements. We can see, I see the lunar nodes here. So there's definitely things going on, but like right here, I would want to know what that means. And so that is very interesting. I'm going to have to do some search to see if anybody has worked through some of these meanings, because that's important to me. Look at the high priestess. We often talk about the high priestess as diving deep. Look, she's literally diving into the water, and she can see her reflection. And look, there's a string of ohms here. You would write the sentences with that beginning and ending. I'm not sure if it is upright, starts at the top and works down, or vice versa, but those are ohms, I'm sorry, or some people call them ogums. This says, an older woman plunges her hands into a river. The light of the nearly full moon is reflected in the water. A younger woman, look, rises up from the depths. How awesome is that? Have you ever stopped in your tracks by the moon? The feeling is one of utter enchantment, as if the veil that separates is lifted momentarily. I love this. The high priestess embodies that feeling. If the magician is all about craft, the high priestess speaks of intuition, of dreams, and the possibility of psychic powers. If the magician represents logos, the power of the word, then the high priestess represents mythos, the stuff beyond words. Oh, how do we love this? When we stumble across the high priestess, the hairs on our neck stand up and we are stopped in our tracks. The writer Robert Graves was a lover of mythos. He always bowed 9 times to the new moon while turning a silver coin. He gave us the idea that the ancient cultures had worshipped a triple moon goddess, the maiden mother, the crone. We see all 3 here. The crone plunges her hand into the reflection of the nearly full moon, the mother, and is met by the maiden. How awesome is that? Who rises up from the water as if to kiss her. Oh my goodness. The high priestess invites us to pay attention to mythos. Oh, I love that. I need to know. I need to know. I'm gonna pause this and see if anybody is saying what this says. One moment, please. Okay. I couldn't, with a quick skim, come up with anything. If I can't come up with anything, that is going to frustrate with me. And I know this is supposed to be a riddle, and so we should try to hunt this down and try to figure out what that means. Is that always going to be able to happen? Like this I can probably find out. I know this is Ogham, so I can find that out. But that... again, I like the concept that we have hidden messages, but the the air element in me, so I want to know, and I want to know precisely, like give me a listing somewhere, or allow me to request a list of this, so that I can find out what those hidden things are. So I hope that those are are able to find them somewhere, or that's going to irritate me. But otherwise, I'm still already loving this. This high priestess is something else. So then we move on to the Empress, who is, of course, very earthy. She is barefoot. She is literally like in a tree with the moon behind her. We have some water behind her. There's a whole bunch of mushrooms. We definitely have something going on here word-wise. Again, another little thing. It almost looks like it's backwards writing. I'll have to see. That kind of stuff's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to want to know what that is. But this is definitely the idea of Mother Earth. She's not, they're not really going to that sort of Empress who is the ruling counterpart to the Emperor as much as that Mother Nature, which is great because that tends to be how I read it anyways. It's still that powerful. She looks strong. She looks powerful. I love that she's dressed up in her high robes, but she's barefoot, and she is just lounged comfortably on this tree that is rooted in the ground with all the mushrooms and earthiness. It almost looks like she's giving birth in the position she's in, and it almost looks like she's giving birth to flowers, which I'm sure is not the way it is, but it does look like that. Here we have the Emperor, who is looking very imperial, very much more of that ruler energy here as the Emperor would, that father figure. It says that his leg is cocked at a slightly uncomfortable angle, which it is. And we have the Fool that oftentimes the kings would have, and he bears a little resemblance there to the Fool card, although obviously, thankfully, he's not dressed as a jester. I'm not real fond of jesters. But this is actually Henry VIII, and we do have he had a wound in his leg that apparently really affected him quite a lot, and so this is why we see his leg cocked in this way. But still, very Emperor. I can definitely read that as Emperor energy. Look at the hierophant. Now that's very different, isn't it? A priest stands with his arms raised in a state of divinely inspired ecstasy or bliss. Animals surge around him and he roars to the sky. Now this is definitely a very different hierophant. It says here, a hierophant is someone who manifests the divine, and traditionally the card depicted a pontiff or a priest. To many modern sensibilities, priests seem a little desiccated, less interested in manifesting the divine than in maintaining the social order through the enforcing of religious dogma. The hierophant in this guise wants to restrict or even deny us access to the magical realm. There's an obvious resonance with the Emperor. They're both old, gray father figures telling us what to do. The hierophant of the English magic tarot could not be more different. We may not know what rituals our hierophant's been doing, what spell he's been conjuring, what plant allies he's been taking, but he's certainly broken on through the other side. Rules and doctrines be damned. He's taken the left-hand path and sought out the divine directly. His reward is to have plunged into the shamanic realm. Power animals churn around him. You feel like he could bend the world. In Old English, they would have called him woad or mad, furious, possessed by a god. If the magician is all about acquiring skills and learning the magical arts, then the hierophant is about moving beyond mere technique. He no longer practices magic. He is magic. I know that feeling from playing music. Suddenly the doubts fall away, your fingers move as if propelled by some external force, and the music streams through you. I live for these moments. The hierophant may indicate the need to find a spiritual teacher. See, that's one thing I have to say. I love this, right? This is amazing, and I love the description of this strong. This is a person. He is channeling the divine. He is in a shamanic space, right? And then in the reading, he just kind of flops back to the traditional, go find a teacher. Like, this doesn't say to me, go find a teacher. Like, this says connect directly to the energy, whether it be the divine divine or whatever energy that you see, connect into it directly. Love the card. Love the description. Don't love the reading portion so much because it just kind of drops back into normal. We can see here we have runic words down at the bottom. I see a doe here. We have like a mountain lion. We have dogs. I think we have a horse over here, a cow. Really powerful, powerful card. Definitely very Marvel-esque. I love the small color palette, which you can kind of see reflected in the majors. You've got green and this kind of tealy blue and a mustardy yellow, and then this red, and then of course the tan, or I don't know what color you call that background. Those are kind of the color palettes that you're seeing throughout the whole deck, which is very gorgeous actually, and very, like I said, vintage graphic novel looking. I love it. Very, very powerful hierophant there. Sorry to go back to some more reading, but you know, what are you going to do? Sometimes you just got to do it. Here we have the lovers, and they're faced back to back with a witch's broom, it looks like, and a ram. What is going on? They touch tenderly, back to back. They stand in front of a tree against which a broomstick is propped, and a ram stands behind him. It's a card that doesn't need an awful lot of interpretation. There's something chaste about the way these two are touching, as if this were a recent and unconsummated courtship. Don't be fooled. The ram, the tree, and the broomstick all suggest an undercurrent of sexuality. For any love affair to blossom, 3 things must be in place. I love the idea of 3s with the Lover's card because I really do work that way. There needs to be a connection of the heart, which is evident here. There must also be sexual connection. If there isn't, the relationship risks toppling like a tree without a root. Finally, there must be a meeting of the minds, which we see in the feather that curves between their hats. Here, like a crescent moon. The last thing you want is for pillow talk to give way to embarrassing silences. I love that idea of 3 here, and I love this this image of the lovers. Look at the chariot. Lots of very dynamic movement, and that's the key word that they use in this whole, so far in these cards in general. But here we have flow and movement. A man straddles 2 wild horses that are galloping through smoke and flame. I mean, look at, he's not even on a chariot, right? He is just riding the energy waves. How awesome. See, I want to know what this text is. Like, I know that this is oghams here, or ogams, but they're supposed to be pronounced oghams. I know that those are runes. I'm not sure what this more, standard text here is supposed to be, and I want to know. Love this. Love the movement here. And then look at the strength card. See, I want to know what's on his tail. That's really going to annoy me. I'm going to send a message and say, look, I want to know what these messages are. I love this. The volcano pictured in this card in the background here reminds us that even the tamest of lions may erupt at any time. The woman has none of these things, like the whip or the chair of a lion tamer. Yet she's under control. Look how lightly she holds his mane. He barely knows she's there. With just a suggestion of the wrist, she can make him go. She's so relaxed. I love this. I'm reminded of a Taoist thought, he writes, in which it is said that the soft will always overcome the hard. We live in a culture where physical strength is often prized, but the old Taoist masters knew better. You can't get softer than water, they say, and yet water will wear away stones. The old masters of Western mystery tradition clearly reached the same conclusion. It's inner strength that will win the day. I adore this strength card. And look at the S is got a color on it. Okay, so far that's, oh no, the chariot has a yellow, that mustard yellow in the C. Here we have more of a red in the S. I wonder if those are going to say a word. if we put those together, because I know there's like little codes and things. But I want to know what it says on his tail. Like, I could probably work out the runes, but I don't know what this is to try to work it out. Here we have, again, a very interesting hermit, because he isn't just, you know, kind of going off or even just passively holding a lantern. He's like working with sylphs or undines or some kind of... The hermit is usually portrayed as a melancholy old man. I love the old man. Or like King Lear, as battling against some inner or outer storm with only a fragile light as a beacon. He's light on his feet, and has conjured dancing elemental spirits. He's as wise as the venerable old oak tree he calls home. The foxhole might be his portal into the shamanic otherworld. I really like the blend of, you know, old English feel and style and costume, but then there is a very shamanic feel to it, which of course, as you know, really interests me. This is beautiful. I love it. Ooh, look at Fortune. Again, we have a T in red here. We have what looks to be like a fortune teller. Romany fortune teller steps out barefoot over the rolling chalk uplands known in England as the Downs. The entire tarot deck wheels about her, all except for 3 cards that tumble to the floor. Oh, I love it. To work with the tarot, to seek to know, is risky. There's always a chance that you'll learn something you'd rather not. The lesson of fortune is that for good or bad, everything changes. The wheel never stops turning. Enjoy what you have right here, right now, for you never know what's coming in the morning. Love it. Ooh, look at her. Look at Justice with the rainbow. Lady Justice. Which is traditionally based on Themis, and she's usually shown blindfolded. We also talk about the goddess Mat with the feather. Here, Rex has drawn Justice without a blindfold. If Lady Justice can see, then maybe she's not quite so impartial. Laws are, after all, human creations. It's precisely because human affairs are so murky that we require a perfect divine justice. Now that we can look into Lady Justice's eyes, we can see her pain. She's not biased. She generally cares about fairness. She really wants the world to be a better place. If we act in the interest of kindness and fairness as her look implores us to do, actual justice will be done. I really, 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 really like this. I love all the bare feet people, because I love bare feet people. Here we have the Hanged Man, suspension and self-sacrifice. He's in some kind of a limbo of not being in the air, not being on the ground. He's trusting there's something beautifully oh my goodness. There's something beautifully childlike about him. He recalls the old English god of magic Woden, who hung himself from the world tree for 9 days and 9 nights. Again, we have the text here. I won't keep ranting about it, but I want to know what it says. Ooh, look at Death. So here we have the Death with the T. Oops, did I look? No. Yeah, the N is green here. Probably means nothing. They probably did it just to harass people like me. So here we have Death, who has runes on either side of his arms. He is the executioner. You know, instead of obviously the sickle, we have somebody who would actually be chopping off heads from King Henry VIII's wives that he has killed. But he is the headsman, and he does have the bony hand of death is reaching towards him. That's interesting. Note how 2 stalks of corn are sprouting from that bleak, arid landscape. They are reminiscent of the old English folk song John Barleycorn. It's a drinking song about how barley is used to brew beer, but it also touches on profound themes of life, death, and rebirth. For just as we cut John Barleycorn down each summer, so he springs back to life the next year. So you do have that idea of the rising cycles of the sun or the moon here, right? Look at that scary face there. but we also do have the idea of the sunrise and the cycles that happen in the death card. Very cool. Whoa, Temperance has her head, or his or her head, under the water. Stillness and balance. A woman dips her head into a pool. She's framed by 2 willow trees. She holds 2 cups behind her back and pours liquid from one to another. Okay, that's pretty mad skills, right? Everything is in balance. The willow trees show summer and winter in perfect equipoise. The woman is lightly balanced between earth and water, all while performing some extraordinary feat of juggling behind her back. Everything in moderation, including moderation, Oscar Wilde famously quipped. All extremes flow into each other. Stars are born and die. Summer becomes winter, becomes summer again. Full becomes empty. The wheel turns. Accept the simple truth, and nothing can ever knock you from your feet. Find balance in your life. It's beautiful. Very zen, very gorgeous. Whoa, look at devil here. The devil. Did Temperance have a letter? Yeah, T. The devil has no letter highlighted. The shadow. So they're interpreting this as simply the shadow and your nemesis. People dread the devil, not without good reason. 2,000 years of Christianity have enshrined him as the epitome of evil. Just look at that couple coming over the hill. Their night of illicit pleasure has turned into a 1970s folk horror movie. The devil is drawing them inexorably towards their terrible end. However, it's silly to suppose that evil comes from anywhere but from inside us. The devil represents all our uncomfortable feelings, the ones that evoke guilt and anger, secret desires, and narcissistic fantasies. He's our shadow side. No wonder we externalize him. It's so much easier to blame someone else for our discomfort, to drive the scapegoat from the village. Trouble is, when we do, we find we're still dangling from the devil's puppet strings. Love it, love it, love it. Ooh, do I love this tower. Has a O that's in red. Those 2 ravens here. Oh, this is the Tower of London. Sudden spiritual insight or illumination, revolutionary ideas that destroy old paradigms. It suggests the toppling of an institution, a despised regime, or even an empire. How interesting. Love this. But you still get the traditional lightning and this kind of thing. Then you've got the added Tower of London. Apparently ravens are associated with the tower. With the legend that if the ravens ever leave the tower, then the British monarchy is going to fall, and so on. So there's added things going on. Gorgeous. Look at the star. Now how different is that? The star represents hope. Let's see. We all now know what our ancestors did not, that starlight has traveled countless light years to get here. To see starlight is to see back into the endless depths of the ancient past. Moreover, every element from the periodic table that makes up the world around us was forged in a star. We are quite literally stardust. I find all of this beautiful, mysterious, and profoundly hopeful. No wonder that magical consciousness, the state we fall into when we do magic, is sometimes called starlight consciousness. Our card shows Sir Isaac Newton, the great English physicist, splitting light with his famous prism. His fame as a scientist now obscures the fact that he spent much of his lifetime spending alchemy. So although he's here doing science, splitting the worlds into constituent parts, he's also reaching out to try and understand the greatest mysteries. He seems to bring on the brink of knowing. His body is filled with hope. Beautiful. I really love this guidebook. Not so much the reading. So this little aspect here with the reading is pretty traditional, which I guess is good to have, right? But I just love the way the author writes in this guidebook. Amazing. Here we have the beautiful moon, and look at, she's facing the hair of the Fool card, which is interesting, right? The card suggests illusions and paradoxes and possibly madness. Is that woman the moon herself, or someone beguiled by the moon? Is she scolding the hare or commanding him, sending him home or banishing him? She points to the full moon in the sky, yet conceals a moon in her hand. Look at that. Oh, I love this. It can represent a time of trial or an ordeal of some sort, inner, but it's an inner one. But it can also call you to attend to your dreams. I really like this moon card. And of course, this is what we see on the cover of the guidebook. I quite like that. There's something really powerful about the moon, as well as her hiding a moon behind her back. The sun, very masculine. We do still have the sunflowers, but it's a full-grown man who is dressed. He's probably a courtier like Sir Francis Drake or Sir Walter Raleigh, something along this line. It's that glorious outcome, it says, and happy summer days. Like, this is just about happiness, but it's at least a strong male standing there, because that's really how I do see the sun card. And because then we do have those kind of aspects here in the sun and the moon. Now, I know some people don't like that sort of dichotomy of masculine feminine. It is an energy that I do like to work with, not as a gender, but as a energy form, and I do quite like it. Look at the Judgment card. This looks like the Wicker Man that you see. Let's look. That looks like the Wicker Man. Yes, a large wicker man is about to go up in flames. Traditionally, Judgment depicts the Last Judgment from Christian mythology, but is given a new twist by referencing the 1973, I've watched this movie, The Wicker Man. There's a remaking too. The film is scary, not just because we fear being burned alive or sacrificed to a pagan god, but because we fear being in the crowd cheering on the sacrifice. There is an innate human tendency to want to blame, but again, that idea of scapegoating. Most positively, the card also speaks of our need for catharsis. Many years ago at Glastonbury Festival, a circus troupe built a giant wicker man who was to be torched at the climax of the show. It's that idea of needing the need of the carnival to kind of have that cathartic moment, which is what, but there's interesting questions here, right? There's interesting questions about fear of being judged, but also that fear of becoming the mob and becoming the judgers. That's quite interesting. Because it can be about judging. Are you doing the judging? Is somebody else doing the judging? It's time to kind of assess our own selves and judge the situation fairly. What did we bring to the table? What did others bring to the table? That's really quite powerful of a message, I think, to sit with. And look at this World card. Again, very energetic movement in all of these cards. A nature spirit dances in a tree. A raven hovers above him. This is beautiful. Successful completion, wholeness, the end of some great undertaking. And again, we've got some runes going on here. I really like this card because I'm not usually fond of world cards. So there we have the major arcana. I have to say, other than wanting to know what each of these things mean and thinking or really believing it should be in the book, again, have not read cover to cover, so I will update you if I find otherwise. That's just something, so somebody else that may not bother them at all. For my brain, I'm like, no, I want to know what that means. I especially want to know what this strength card says, because it's just right there, and it's such a gorgeous strength card. So I'm going to have to definitely do some research. But I find this to be actually a really powerful major arcana, still tapping into the traditional meanings, but making you rethink some things and think in a new light other ones. So yeah, really impressed with the majors there.